Chapter 8 Passing Through. Kobe, Ruby, and Solomon were reunited once again. Kobe told them he'd explain how he got the costume and the ring once they were backstage, still not quite believing it himself. The security checkpoint was a wide screen that needed to be stood before. As soon as Kobe moved towards the screen, a series of lights and sounds emitted from it, registering his height, weight, eye color, and various information Kobe could not discern. A number of white heads looked on as Kobe scanned himself, appearing curious. A bell emitted, and a green light of entry illuminated. Kobe walked through the domed security checkpoint and into a long tunnel. Adorned on the walls were moving images of Abe, bands, and rides of the festivals held before. As Kobe surveyed the moving walls, he could hear something calling his name faintly. He glanced around. Ruby and Solomon were walking behind him, smiling and nodding for him to keep going. The moving images on the tunnel walls showed strange and wonderful sights: a neon city, Abe riding in a strange sled across snow, a desert oasis, a see-through image of a person's head with a device inside it. All the while, his name kept getting called. Kobe, Kobe. It grew louder in his mind as he saw the tunnel walls began to print his name in large block letters. The letters moved in circular motion over his head. Kobe followed the letters and saw that it moved down the walls, onto the floor, and back up the other side. The voices grew louder, and his name began to spin faster and faster. A light at the end of the tunnel appeared. Kobe moved towards it quickly, remembering what happened to the computers. Scared now, he ran as the voices yelled in his mind, and the letters span so fast it was like a hypnotist wheel. On and on he ran, but the light did not move any closer. It seemed to be moving away. The black and white spinning walls seemed to shudder and shake, emitting a heavy groan. Kobe saw sparks begin to spit out from the walls, and the smell of smoke. He ran on as the groaning intensified, and the sound of shattering glass could be heard behind him. He ventured a glance and saw not his friends, but a giant black monster crawling through the tunnel behind him. It had eyes like the spider, but the head of a dragon as it slithered and hissed towards him, a giant maw opening, revealing a mass of metal teeth and foul breath. Kobe screamed and ran on. The light he was chasing after moved further away from him, the walls collapsing behind him as the terrible monster grew closer. The light in the tunnel darkened as he ran, the dread in his heart matching his surroundings. The beast was almost upon him, and the light had all but faded. It was over. He would not make it. He was too tired, too weak to keep running. Kobe slowed his pace and felt the breath of the monster behind him. He turned and faced it. In the darkness, he could see it. He turned and faced it. In the darkness, he could not see it, but he knew it was there. For some reason, Kobe was not scared to die. He stepped towards it, and he heard a strange sound, a whimper. Kobe took another step. The beast moved backwards. Another step. Further back it went. A light appeared behind the beast, and there in the distance were his waving friends. Kobe charged headlong towards the monster, yelling as he went. It hissed and turned tail, slithering as quickly as it could to get away from him. The light grew rapidly as the size of the monster seemed to shrink. Soon it went from engulfing the whole tunnel to the size of a car to that of a small animal. Kobe was so busy watching it, he forgot to look up and collided with Solomon and Ruby, waiting at the exit of the tunnel. "Watch it," said Ruby, pushing Kobe off her. Kobe looked all around him. He was outside the tunnel. "What was that?" he said, his hazel eyes wide as he stared back in the tunnel, which now displayed moving images once again. "It's just a tunnel," said Solomon, rising to his feet and brushing himself off. "You didn't see that monster?" said Kobe. "What monster?" puzzled Ruby. "The thing with spider eyes and huge metal teeth," he said. Ruby and Solomon stared at each other. "We were walking in front of you, but once we got to the exit, we saw you weren't behind us anymore. We've been waiting for you for a while," said Solomon. "Are you okay, Kobe? You don't look so good." Kobe shook his head. "I must have just imagined it. Come on, the castle is up ahead, and we're about to get backstage." said Ruby excitedly. Kobe stayed close to them as they led him through the inside of the festival. He could see the big castle towering over everything in the distance, its multiple spires of white appearing like a fairy tale. Surrounding the castle were varying rides, attractions, shops, and side stages. Kobe saw the big screens set adjacent to where the castle stood, the images of fantasy characters in the crowd dancing and waving as the camera displayed them. He could not help but feel out of place in the spacesuit, and the people around him certainly gave him the impression he wasn't in the right place either. As they made their way through the castle, people called out to him and expressed varying words of displeasure at his attire. Kobe did his best to ignore it, though by the time they reached the castle gates, it was beginning to get on his nerves. A drawbridge separated access to the castle. Before it were two Whiteheads, a male and a female, dressed regally. The female said oddly familiar to Kobe, and before he recognized who she was upon him. "Kobe!" she exclaimed, taking his hands in hers. "You made it! I'm so glad you're here!" "Hello again," said Kobe. "Thanks for inviting me to the festival." "Such courteous manners for someone so esteemed," she remarked. "I hope you two have been taking notes," glaring at Solomon and Ruby. "We have," said Ruby. "Right?" "Yeah," agreed Solomon nervously. Of course we have." She eyed them skeptically. "In any case, you have brought Kobe to the Prism Music Festival. As promised, here are your backstage passes." The Whitehead produced two red rings and handed them to Ruby and Solomon. "Remember that you must adhere to the rules and regulations when you're in the VIP," she cautioned. "Any aggressive or antisocial behavior will result in an immediate ban." Solomon and Ruby were giddy with excitement. "We'll be on our best behavior," said Solomon. "Yeah, you'll get no trouble from us." Kobe laughed along with them. They both embraced Kobe in a group hug. Kobe felt like he finally had friends for the first time in his life. They let go and gazed at him expectantly. "Well?" said Ruby. "Well what?" answered Kobe. "You've got some explaining to do. The ring, the outfit, the tunnel. Start talking." Kobe laughed. "Yes, I suppose I'd better, but it'll probably take a while. Let's get a drink and something to eat. The headliner won't be starting till late, and Abe will go on before them. We've got some time to kill," said Solomon. They told the Whiteheads they were ready to enter, and the drawbridge was lowered. Inside was the entrance to the castle itself, yet could not be discerned as to what was inside. They walked across the drawbridge and came to a courtyard, adorned by phosphorescent white flowers growing amongst the grass. The flowers seemed to detect their presence, and angled themselves towards the right side of the castle, as though directing them. "Do we follow?" asked Kobe. "I think we should," replied Solomon, and headed in that direction. It led them up a steep staircase and into the castle itself. Upon the walls tapestries hung of varying colours in grand display, each with a respective image on them. For red it was a ring, for blue a pair of shoes, and for yellow a necklace. Kobe thought the ring on his finger kind of seemed like that of the red tapestry image. "Come on, Kobe," interrupted Solomon. "I can smell food." Kobe knew there was some kind of importance to these tapestries, but hurried along, ignoring the colors of green, purple, violet, and orange. The climb led them to a large banquet hall with buffet food stretched across enormous long tables from end to end. Fantasy characters littered the halls as they ate, drank, and viewed the proceedings from floating displays that hovered in the air above the tables. Kobe could not believe the sheer amount of food before him. He stood gobsmacked while Solomon dove in like a man possessed, attempting to sample everything he could. Ruby stood by Kobe. "Don't worry, they cater to all diets. Each table is catered by one of the top chefs in the world within a specific dietary requirement. Over there is dairy-free, that's vegan, there's gluten-free, and that, where Solomon is stuffing his face, is omnivore." "Incredible," said Kobe. "Wait till you see the bar," said Ruby, giving him a wink and taking up a plate. Kobe hadn't explored many different foods while living in Jinda. He had given the standard meat and three vegetables for most of his life until he could cook food for himself, and then it was his responsibility. The foods on display puzzled him greatly, but he picked up some roast vegetables and lamb shoulder, covered in gravy, and made his way to the bar. Solomon and Ruby had a drink ready for him, a large stein of clear white beer. "Prism ale," said Solomon happily. Brost, said Ruby, and they clinked their steins together. The trio found a table and began to eat. Solomon made several trips to refill his plate. Kobe found the food delicious and hadn't realized how hungry he was, only eating before he left the library in the morning. How much had changed since then. He tried the beer and found it to his liking, despite never trying alcohol before. It was smooth, with aromatic flavors he could not place. He drank it slowly, having heard horror stories about alcohol from his grandmother. Solomon and Ruby seemed to be racing each other for how quickly they could finish their steins. A race the elf lost quickly as Ruby drained her glass and belched loudly, eliciting expressions from people nearby and roars of laughter from Kobe and Solomon. Now, said Ruby, returning with 3 more steins after visiting the bar, tell us what happened. Well, there was the costume, began Kobe, and recounted the encounter with the Blackhead in the tent and the request to steal the edges. Those sneaky bastards, swore Ruby, trying to use you as their lackey and nick the edges. I can't stand blackheads. As Ruby drank, her English accent seemed to blossom with slang. Think they're clever, using you as their spy. What happened then? Well, he gave me the costume, and I headed back into the main entrance and ran into Ashley. Not that prick again! He wasn't too happy with my costume, and I think I would have been in trouble if she hadn't been there. Who? Said Solomon and Ruby together. The blackhead who took my ring in the car park. Kobe recited how she'd lifted him up and thrown him, eliciting roars from the pair. Then she took me to the ladies' toilets and... He faltered. And what? Well, she felt bad for taking the ring, and she wanted to be... He felt his cheeks going red. Punished. Punished? Repeated Ruby, turning to Solomon. I've heard blackheads seek out pain. They find it pleasurable, said Solomon. Kobe, did you? He left it hanging in the air. No, I just squeezed and spanked her, he said a little too loudly, people turning their heads and making Kobe turn bright red. The table was quiet for a few moments, and then Solomon and Ruby burst out laughing. It's not funny. Oh, Kobe, said Ruby. Dear, sweet, innocent Kobe. I had no idea you had that effect on women, she teased. She said I changed her, recalled Kobe. When she tasted me, she felt changed. Spanked by the singularity. Bet that changed her, joked Solomon, sending Ruby into hysterics. Okay, we're sorry. That's just hilarious. She was at the women's toilets the whole time? Asked Ruby. She couldn't use the pass, she said. Something about the barrier. That's right. The blackhead wanted me to lower the barrier, said Kobe. The banquet hall fell silent. All eyes turned to Kobe, wide and aghast. Solomon and Ruby shook their heads, faces hard. Kobe, that's not something to joke about, said Solomon loudly. The barrier is what protects the Prism Music Festival from those who wish to harm it. Please don't make fun of stuff like that, he said, nodding as if to elicit confirmation from Kobe. Yes, of course, said Kobe, getting the message. Sorry, I was only joking. Mutters and whispers filled the banquet hall, and soon the atmosphere was full of voices again. Bloody hell, Kobe, you can't say stuff like that so loudly, scolded Ruby. How should I know what it means? Retorted Kobe. He's right, Rubes. He didn't know lowering the barrier meant, said Solomon. I'm not getting kicked out of the VIP for inappropriate behavior, said Ruby. I'm getting another drink. Don't you think you should pace yourself? Asked Solomon. No, I think you should catch up, she fired back, and walked over to the bar. Sorry about her. She gets even fierier when she's drinking. Drowns her feelings, you know, said Solomon with a sigh. Anyway, you got into the festival. Then you had something happen in the tunnel. What was that? Oh yes, the spider dragon. Kobe went through the bizarre experience as Ruby returned with more drinks. Then as soon as I started chasing it, I saw you two at the exit, and it disappeared. Very strange. I've heard a story about a spider dragon, but it's more of a fairy tale than anything, said Ruby with a hiccup. What is it? Something about 2 dragons that roam the universe, destroying suns. One is white, the other is black. They are siblings, apparently. The brother, who is white, squeezes suns into neutron stars, while the black sister eats them from the inside out. It's said the black one has the spider eyes, she finished with a burp. Where did you hear that? It was on the Prism forums a while back. It went on to say how the dragons got caught in a prism by a witch, and she cast a light through it which made the edges, or some garbage like that. I just like the spider dragon part, she said. Kobe did not agree with her, but thought better of saying anything. Kobe glanced around the hall and noticed a group of people pointing at their table. "Uh-oh," said Kobe, recognized one of the people in the group. What is it?" said Solomon, gazing around. "Oh, crap," he said, seeing the approaching group. Ashley and his group of followers marched over to their table. "Well, well," said Ashley, "if it isn't the Blackhead Freak, featuring Fat and Skinny," he snarled. Ruby shot up from her seat. "What did you call me?" she yelled, green eyes wide. "Sit down, Ruby. He's just trying to provoke you," said Solomon. "I will not sit down," she fired back. Ashley's grey eyes sparkled with glee as the entourage laughed. "You're a bit tight in that armor. Did they not have extra, extra, extra large size?" he goaded. Kobe knew what was about to happen and put himself between Ashley and Ruby, who collided into him with force. Ashley recoiled dramatically. "She hit me!" he cried loudly. "You saw it! She hit me!" A pair of whiteheads standing nearby made their way to the group. "You three, come with us," one of the whiteheads said emotionally. "But I didn't," began Ruby. "Now," said the whitehead, cutting her off. Kobe, Ruby, and Solomon did as they were instructed and followed the whitehead out of the banquet hall. All the while, Ashley beamed a repugnant smile as they left.